Well, welcome back, everybody. This is the Jason Stapleton program for Friday. It's the last day of the season. This is the last show of the year. Very excited to have you here. We're going to try and make this as interesting as possible based on the news that I have available to discuss. And if you have listened to Matt and I over the course of the last several weeks, we don't tend to follow this stuff anyway. We just kind of go wherever the spirit leads us, so to speak. But
you can't tie us down.
No, you really can't. You really can't. We won't stick to this. So, first thing is we got apparently yesterday night, which I did not see this coming. Somebody posted this on the interwebs on Facebook, and the House approved a $5.7 billion president border wall funding. So the House approved this with just a very narrow majority, it looks like, and that went over to the Senate. And the rumor has it that the Senate will not pass this. This will never pass the Senate. But I found it interesting because I didn't see this coming out of the House. I thought for sure that they would have. Trump said he had the votes in the House, and Nancy Pelosi assured him that he didn't. Turns out he does have that. This is a continuing resolution, too, by the way. And it's not supposed to pass the Senate now. And what the president is saying, as of right now, is that he is not going to sign a bill that doesn't have border wall in it. And for me, I look at this, and now the AP story out is government careening towards a shutdown after Trump's wall demands. Let me read a little bit to you. It says the federal government was careening towards a partial shutdown Friday after President Donald Trump's quest for a border wall left Congress without a clear plan to keep the government running past a midnight deadline. It's not careening towards anything. We talked about this on the show yesterday or the day before. It was the day before yesterday. They're talking about 25% of the discretionary budget in Congress, which is a tiny fraction of the overall budget. They're talking about a pittance. I equated it to one section of one floor of one government building being shut down temporarily. That's what we're talking about here. It's not careening towards a shutdown. You're going to have a few people who aren't going to show up for work. It's embarrassing that we can't even talk about this logically and rationally, that the AP of all people have to put out a headline suggesting that there's going to be some massive shutdown and we're careening off a cliff because Trump isn't getting his border wall funded.
The average voter has no idea about all of that, though, so they're accomplishing exactly what they want to
accomplish. That's right, and that's the unfortunate thing, is that the majority of people who drive by the media the way the media drives by news is opening it up, and they're hearing about a government shutdown, and naturally in their minds they're seeing everything being boarded up and nobody's being able to come to work and nobody's getting their Social Security checks and military people aren't getting paid. None of that's true. None of it's true. It's never been true. Every time they've talked about that happening, it never happens. I mean, the closest we came was Obama shutting down the National Mall. And even that only lasted for about a day before people were so outraged. It's like, you can't make cuts anywhere else. This is the only place that's preventing people from going and seeing the Vietnam Memorial. No, it was a spectacle. Nothing. I guarantee you, if this, and Trump is saying that it could be shut down for a very long time, and this is what I'm telling you, is that you are not going to notice any difference in your life. None whatsoever. 25% of the discretionary budget gone, you will not notice a change in your life or your lifestyle. They could rebalance the budget with the money that was left over, take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, fund the rest of these programs, and they'd be fine. I just, it befuddles me. I want to scream into the microphone, you dummies. Wake up. This is stupid, but then I sound like Alex Jones, and I don't want to do that. But this border wall thing is another thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys today, because I'm looking at this border wall, and number one, a border wall is not going to solve any problem with immigration. Immigration is happening because there are people who want to come here to work, and as long as there are jobs, and in some cases they're here for the welfare, but in most cases people are here looking for a better life. And I don't care how big you build the wall, I don't care how long you make it, they'll go over it, they'll go under it, they'll go around it. You realize that the wall terminates at the ocean, and that then there's this vast expanse of the ocean that you can simply go around. that you can come in through the Gulf of Mexico, or you can come up. There's a million different ways to get here. All you're doing is making it more difficult, but you're not going to prevent them from doing it.
I think the idea is to try to narrow the ports of entry down so they're not having to deal with everything being a port of entry, being able to narrow it down to where they can consolidate resources in specific areas.
But we never do.
But how much are you going to spend on the wall, and at what point would you be saving money elsewhere? I don't. The immigration system needs an overhaul that extends vastly beyond building a wall or anything like that.
This has been my biggest problem, is that you've got to figure, the reason you have an illegal immigration problem in America is because you don't have a legal process for migrants to come here who either already have work or who are capable of getting work. And so what you've got is a backlog that takes 5 or 10 years to even get in, if you can manage to get in. And most people aren't willing to wait that long.
You're involved, you being the U.S. is involved in creating additional migrants, both in the Middle East and in Central America, by destabilizing regimes.
You're talking about foreign policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're exacerbating their own issues.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. And so I look at this thing and I say, all right, so you build this wall. Are you going to increase the border patrol agents to be able to cover it all? Because they're talking about putting in all kinds of technology and things that are going to help you. I can just promise you none of that's going to work, because the government, it's always crap when the government creates it. And so it's only going to half work. And let's say you got a border wall that's 100 miles long, and you've got, a dozen border patrol agents to cover 100 miles of fence all the time. It ain't going to be possible. Even if you're triggering whatever it is, the technology to signal, oh, somebody's trying to come across the wall here. Ooh. In East Germany, people were going across the wall every day. They were paying off people. They were going around. They were running through. They were digging under. People were getting out all the time. The idea that you are going to keep them out because you're building a wall is stupid. It's a dumb idea. But there are a massive number of people in this country who believe that we need it for our security and for our pocketbooks.
So to be clear, all of those issues that you're suggesting, those are current issues, having to police the entire border, and
right.
And so building the wall would mitigate some of those issues to an extent, but it's not going to solve the problem. So it's going to be a gigantic boondoggle that gives the appearance of solving the problem without actually solving the problem.
Well, and have you seen the numbers on it? Is it like $25 billion? Is that what they're suggesting it's going to cost?
20.
It's $20 billion. And here's the thing. He's got $5 billion, so he's going to build part of a wall. And what are we going to do? We're going to piecemeal this wall together over the next 20 years so that then we have to re-improve upon it. Look at the Great Wall. That's the greatest example of an absolute waste of time and money. They built the Great Wall, and they bribed a couple of people to open up one of the gates, and they just marched through. This is a bad idea. It is a waste of time and money and energy. And anybody who thinks differently is just flat out not a student of history. They really don't understand the problem, and they think we just need a gigantic wall to keep people out.
Vincent in the group made a good point. He says, if people are coming here looking for welfare, we have a welfare problem, not an immigration problem.
That's what I've been saying for years. I said we have a social welfare problem in America. We don't have an immigration problem. We should want as many immigrants to come here as humanly possible. Look, if you don't like competition, you don't like capitalism. You really don't. So if you're worried about some migrant coming across the border who's like, look, we'll live four families in a 2-bedroom apartment and we'll work for $2.50 a day. Well, guess what? You need to improve your skills. What were we talking about before the show? This is what kills me, is that there was a guy who apparently makes around $100,000 a year, and it was showing his budget and how good he was with money, and he lives with 3 other guys, $800 a month for rent. He spends, whatever it is, $40 on a phone bill, and he's got
$30 on a housekeeper.
Yeah, $30 a month on a housekeeper, and people are railing against how unrealistic his lifestyle is. No, it's not unrealistic. It's just not comfortable. So why would you want to live like that? This is the point I'm trying to make to all of you listening, is that you have 2 options. You can live with less, or you can make more. Because if you want to get rich in this country, in any world, you got to spend less than you make, and you got to save and invest the rest in industries that you understand. So however much you're making, you got to spend less than that. So the trick becomes, how do I spend less than I'm making now? Well, you can live with 3 or 4 other roommates, or 4 families to a house, and you can have a $30 housekeeper or none at all, and you can live off having a flip phone rather than a smartphone if you want to. That's one way to do it. Or you can figure out how to make more money so that you can live a higher standard of living, a standard of living that you're comfortable with, and then still have money left over to save and invest.
When you say to spend less than you make and then save and invest the rest in industries that you understand,
right,
it could be that the only industry you understand is your own self.
Correct.
So invest that money in your own edification. Use Skillshare. Use some type of way to build your own capital to improve your ability to generate more income on the market.
Yeah, if you don't know anything, then go learn something. That's why I say we had the conversation the other day on the show, and I talked about buying suits. I said there are some investments that you make in yourself beyond your education that are going to be important. If you are marketing to people who are very successful and who are very wealthy, and you want to be selling, say you're working in real estate, and you want to be selling multi-million-dollar homes, not $100,000 homes, which I would suggest you do because it's easier. And if you can break into that industry, the paydays are a lot bigger, and the homes are no more difficult to sell than a smaller home. And so I say, well, go out there. But to do that, you better look like you're a guy who's showing up to sell a $5 million home, or if you're in California, a $20 million home. You've seen the guys on the real estate TV shows, right? What do they look like? They're like metrosexual, all of them, right?
Yeah.
They're wearing $1,000 shoes, $3,000 suits. They look like they ought to be selling New York penthouses. Yeah, they look like they ought to be selling penthouses in New York City. Okay? If that guy'd shown up in a polo shirt and no tie or a tie, there's no way that dude's going to move real estate. Nobody's going to trust that guy. So especially when you're new. Now, when you become super wealthy, see, this is the thing, is that when you have no money, you got to kind of look the part. If you got a lot of money, you got to look the part. If you have ridiculous like FU money, like Mark Zuckerberg, then you dress however you want to. Then you can dress in a hoodie and a T-shirt and sneakers all day, and it's like whatever. Screw you. I'm Mark Zuckerberg.
The Steve Jobs special, the black turtleneck, and the jeans.
Look at what was that show with Mark Gosling and the guy from The Office, Steve Carell. So Steve is trying to get out there in the dating world, and he meets
40-year-old virgin.
No, not 40-year-old virgin. So he's trying to get out in the dating world, and he meets Mark Gosling, who is a ladies' man, and they show up because he's going to take him shopping. And he shows up, and he's wearing, I don't know, a polo shirt and blue jeans tucked in with a belt and sneakers. And Mark Gosling shows up, and he says, "Who are you? What is this?" He's like, "What are you wearing here?" He's like, Are you what's his name from Microsoft?
Bill Gates.
Are you Bill Gates? So are you a closet multimillionaire? He's like, then get rid of those sneakers. Don't wear sneakers. You're not wealthy enough to wear sneakers. And there's a point that you really have to, there is some truth to that. Now, I'm not suggesting that you got to go out and look like $1 million all the time if it's not required for your job. What I'm saying is there are times when you need to invest in yourself so that you can portray the image that you need to portray so that you can become the person that you ultimately want to be. There are guys who work in law practices now where they don't have a secretary anymore. They don't have anybody who answers their phone. They're not in the phone book. They don't have a website because they get referral business. They dress however they want to. They don't have to put on a suit every day. They don't go to a Manhattan apartment or a Manhattan law firm. They work out of their home. And they make a ridiculous amount of money because they've been able to achieve a level of success in their life. But there was a time when they were hustling like that. And if you want to get to that level, you're going to have to make some investments. And so if you don't have the money that you want or you're not living the lifestyle you want, you have two choices. You can either accept your fate, decide that you're going to live a life of mediocrity, or you can figure out how to make more. And the very first place you should be investing your money is in you, in your knowledge and in your education and in your skill set. Once you move up from that, then you can start deciding where you want to go and what you want to do with your life. But it frustrates me when I hear people talk about this. And if you have any question, if there's any doubt in your mind that there's not enough money in this world, that, there's not just, people just don't have any money, I want you to look at the GoFundMe. We the People Will Fund the Wall. This is a new GoFundMe campaign set up to build the wall because Congress won't fund it. Over the past 4 days, they had 200,000 people raise $12.6 million. Okay, now a couple of takeaways from this. Number one is that there's all the money in the world out there. There's no shortage of money. If you think there's a shortage of money, it's only because you don't have any. There's no shortage of money in this world. It's out there. It's just waiting to be picked up. You just got to provide enough value to have people give it to you.
Remember the bundle of sticks from Anthropology?
Yeah.
For $42.
For $42. Stuff you can get in your backyard, they're charging you $42 for.
A company like that isn't going to put something like that on the shelf unless it's flying off.
No, of course not. And the truth is, the profit margin on that is ridiculously high. And the point I'm making is that there's $12.6 million that people gave up for. They're trying to raise $1 billion. Now, $1 billion will fund 60 miles of wall. It's just, that's what it's going to cost. So your $1 billion is going to fund 60 to 100 miles of wall. It's not even going to make a dent. If anybody thought about it rationally, they'd be, this is really a waste of time because we're never going to raise that amount of money. But he's able to raise $12.6 million in 4 days. Now, second thing that I would like to bring up about this. So the first thing is that there's more than enough money out there for whatever you want in your life. You just got to figure out how to go get it. Second thing is, this is exactly what we should see in a free society. If you want a border wall, and there's enough people out there who want a border wall, they'll fund it themselves. They don't need the government. They raised $12.6 million in just 4 days. Imagine what they could do in a couple of years. Since Trump has been talking about building this wall, imagine what would happen if people had just been giving that whole time. You know what? We're just saving up. We're at $2 billion now. Keep it coming. We've started construction. They can start to see their work in progress. Yep, the wall's being built. Get on a monthly subscription plan where you give your $5 or your $10 a month. Because the fact is they've had 207,000 people give to this, most of them in very small donations. The biggest donation was, you said 50,000?
Yep. And then there was probably half a dozen 10,000s and then several 5,000s.
Then it immediately drops off into the $20, $50 range. Well, what if everybody was willing to give 10 or 20 bucks a month and you could have $2 million, $4 million a year that they could put to construction of the wall, and we funded ourselves as people. This just makes a lot more sense to me than the government coming in and dictating. And who do you think is going to be more responsible with that money? People who are beholden to no one, because that's what the government is with your money, or people who you've given, your $10 a month to, and you can cut that off whenever you want. Man, those people are going to be a lot more interested in making sure you see the result of your donation. Here's the result of what you gave money for. This is why we want more. Look at everything we're accomplishing. And they have to continue to come back to that trough and ask for more. Otherwise, you cut them off.
Now you've got a direct connection between the money that someone has spent, or because right now taxes are taken from you, and then there's this whole big layer of bureaucracy, and so whatever, the stuff happens and you don't really care. But now, if you have this direct connection between the money that you've donated and the project that you're donating it specifically to, and that project isn't progressing the way that it should, people are going to react really strongly to that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Looks like our video went out. What happened?
We broke the camera.
That's weird. We must have. That's crazy. Maybe it's still actually streaming. Go check on that thing and see if that thing's running. Sorry, we're working on this live stream for those of you who are in the private group, and is it still going?
I can't tell if it's recording.
Well, it should just be. Can you just see something?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so you can see something on there. So it's technically going. I don't care. We'll switch over to this one. That's fine. We'll do it like that. We got something going on here. Yeah, that just went out for some reason. We're all on the same Wi-Fi. It's weird. Huh. All right. Doesn't matter. We got a show to do. All right. So anyway, essentially what I'm saying is if this was really that big a deal, if people really wanted this, they'd fund it themselves. And this is the way that all of this stuff ought to be generated and ought to be paid for. There's no reason to have a confiscation of wealth in order to provide for things. Now, I mean, I don't know. You run into questions about, again, in a free society about, okay, I'm giving $100 a month or $10 a month because I believe in a border wall, but everybody else is getting the benefit of it. And why would I continue to pay for something that everybody benefits from when I'm the only one paying for it? But the truth is, there are going to be a lot of things in our society that you will fund that your neighbor won't fund. So, for example, you might not give for a border wall, but you might give to help a soup kitchen, or you might help to give to an education program. So and the guy who's given to the border wall, he's not giving to that because that's not where his interests lie. I think that we ought to, this is a shining example of someone who believes in an idea and who is trying to convince as many people as possible to give to that idea. That, to me, just makes a massive amount of sense. It's what we say about charity. You have if you think something is important, you have a responsibility to give as much money as you can and to try and convince as many other people to do the same thing. That's what real charity is. Charity is not government. Government is theft. Government is the redistribution of your wealth against your will. Because there would be no need for taxation if people were giving to these things freely. And the fact that the government confiscates it rather than receiving it freely from the people means they have no incentive to use the money wisely, unlike these private institutions. A great one was Wounded Warrior. So Wounded Warrior for years was getting all kinds of celebrities, and they were bringing people on, and they were raising all of this money for wounded warriors coming back from the wars. And then people started to look at how much of the money they were receiving was actually going into the pockets of warriors, and they realized it was a pittance of the amount of money that should have been going in. And you don't see a lot of commercials for them anymore. I don't even know if they're still operating. They probably are, but they're not all over the commercials like they used to be, because there was a revolt inside the community of the way they were using the money that was being given for vets. Then you take somebody like the Recon and Sniper Foundation that I'm a huge fan of and I give money to, and it's just a bunch of guys who are doing it out of the goodness of their heart, and any money that they can collect, they immediately push out to guys who need it. And they're not taking any money for themselves. They're not pocketing any of the cash. Well, I understand there is some need for an administrative budget, and you need to pay people if they're going to be working full-time on something like a charity. That doesn't bother me. But when it becomes excessive, when the bulk of the money is not reaching the people that it's designed to reach, and instead it's feeding the machine, you've got a problem. And the nice thing about it is that these guys have to balance that. So all of your charities have to balance, okay, how much of this can we really use to grow, and how much can we use to maintain and provide for the administration, and how much do we have to make sure gets out to them so that we can continue to raise money? And the fact is that if they don't do a good job, the money will stop flowing. Unlike government, which will just take and confiscate and continue to abuse and have no regard for you as the individual. You think that your government is beholden to you. They're not. Once they're in power, the only thing that you can do is vote them out of power. You really have no other option, no other recourse, because they are not going to act in your best interest when they're there.
And then they're the ones who control the options that you get to vote for.
That's right, yeah. They control everything that you get to vote for. So it's far better that the bulk of our tax dollars remain in the hands of individuals rather than with the government. Because if this shows anything, $12.6 million in 4 days is that if there is some demand for this in America, like there are a lot of people who are given a lot of money to build a border wall. And if that's the case, then our responsibility is to give money to those causes that we believe in. And you don't need government for that. But anyway, okay, let me tell you about Policy Genius, guys. Here's another thing that you got a responsibility for, and that's to make sure when you die, which you will, we're all gonna die. I love that from Predator. It's like, we're all gonna die. Love that dude. Freaking awesome. It's like anyway, we're all going to die, and you're going to need to be put in the ground, and it can get expensive, and you definitely don't want your family having to worry about that. So go to Policy Genius. It's the easiest way to get life insurance in minutes. You can compare quotes from top insurers, find coverage you need at prices you can afford. Policy Genius doesn't just do life insurance. They also do homeowners insurance, auto insurance. They can help you get you covered fast. So whatever sort of insurance needs you've got, go to PolicyGenius.com, check them out. And if you've been intimidated or frustrated by insurance in the past, give them a call at Policy Genius. Just go to policygenius.com and get your quotes and apply in minutes. You can do the whole thing over your phone right now. Policygenius.com, the easy way to compare and buy life insurance.
On the subject of we're all going to die, when I woke up this morning and started looking at news articles to dump some stuff into the stack to talk about, that was pretty much the theme of everything on social media.
What, that we're all going to die?
Yeah, that this is the end of the world, everything's terrible, it's all falling apart. And there was this headline about how CNN, or it might have even not just been CNN, but all the news agencies had some crazy chyrons yesterday, the little messages that go on the bottom of the screen when you're watching the news.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about...
Would you call it a chyron?
It's called a chyron, yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Chyron.
I called it a lower third.
Yeah. So the chyron, they said things like something about like the government screeching to a halt while markets collapse and the State Department descends into chaos or something like that. So it was like these chyrons for the ages. And I was like, that's crazy that yesterday was apparently this really catastrophic, chaotic day, and I had no idea. I wasn't paying attention to the news. I was working on some of the projects for the show, and then I was working on my own side hustle, and then working on some stuff around the house, and wasn't really paying attention to anything. And I was like, oh, it's a pretty good day. Nice sunny, went for a walk, got some fresh air. It was a great day. And then I turn on the news, and it's the end of the world, and everything's caving in around us. It's hard to buy that when you aren't paying attention to it.
Just refuse to participate, man. That's what. Oh, there's a recession going on. Yeah, I'm not. I refuse. I refuse to participate in your recession. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. And look, if you command your own destiny, you can do that. You can just say, yeah, I'm just not going to participate. I'm not going to choose to view the world that way. If there are companies going bankrupt right and left, guess what?
I'm going to replace them.
That's right. That means there's a whole lot of people looking for somebody who used to do what those guys don't do anymore, and I'm going to be that guy. More fortunes are made during recessions than in the height of an economic boom. That the recession is when the foundation is laid. It's when you clear out all the competition. It's when you become the only guy left. What was remember Bubba Gump? And they had the catastrophic, they were out on the ocean and the typhoon came through and it just destroyed all of the other ships and they were the only guys out on the water and they were able to just reel it. That's the way I look at recessions. It's like, yeah.
That's a great visual.
All of you guys, everybody else is gone. I'm the only one there. All the shrimp is mine. So all I have to do is run a better, more efficient business than all of these other guys who are living fat on the hog during the profitable years, and I'm going to survive. And those guys will go off to do something else. So, no, I'm with you. I woke up yesterday. There was no smog in the city at all. I woke up, looked out the window. I can see all the way to the Hollywood sign, and I just put my hands in the air and I said, "What a day! Look at this day! This is going to be an amazing day." And I started off like that, and I went down and I wrote for a couple of hours, and got the bulk of my book done. Or bulk of the first couple of chapters of the book done.
Very, very nice, by the way.
Oh, thank you, man.
I was digging it.
Well, I hope so. I sent it. I'm going to send it over to get it properly edited, and then we're going to shop it to a couple of book publishers. And so, by the way, if any of you listening to the show are in the book publishing business, I'd love to talk to you because I would like to get this in front of a couple of people. And I know you never know who we've got listening. We've all kinds of people from all different walks, but any of you in the book business or connections to that, I would love to talk to you because I want to get this book in the hands of some people who can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I will self-publish it if I can't find anybody to publish it for me, but it'll be easier for PR and everything else if it goes through a regular book publisher.
If there's someone out there, how should they get a hold of you? Jason at JasonStapleton.com.
Yeah, Jason at Jason Stapleton. Support at JasonStapleton.com. Twitter, the Facebooks. Hit me up in the private Facebook group. I don't check Facebook Messenger very much, so don't ever send me anything on Facebook Messenger. I get weird stuff from people on Facebook Messenger, so
that's where the crazies live.
I guess so. I don't know. It's weird. I would think that they wouldn't be crazy sending me weird stuff, but I don't know. I've gotten interesting emails and stuff, but I've gotten some weird stuff.
You just bring out the best in people, Jason.
I really do. I really do. People love me or hate me. Either way, I'm still here. All right. So this is actually cool. We're talking about all the negative stuff going on in the world. How humanity won the war on famine. It turns out that food scarcity is decreasing. Despite what all of the experts told us for years and years, that we were going to have droughts and famines and that people were going to starve. I remember in the 1980s, this was all over, that we only had a few years left, that there wouldn't be enough food to support mankind. and that we had better just get ready for the droughts and famines that were coming.
Paul Ehrlich.
Yes, exactly. And it turns out now not only calorie intakes have grown from 2,200 calories a day in 1961 to almost 2,900 calories a day. In sub-Saharan Africa, I guess that's the worst place you could be, food supply rose from 2,000 calories in 1961 to 2,400 calories in 2013. It's good news. A lot of the stuff you look at, and we look at how we try and claim how terrible the world is, and then you take a look at some of this stuff, and you're like, no, it's actually going really well.
To put some context on that, the sub-Saharan Africa number, it says the next sentence says, put differently, the world's poorest region enjoys access to food that is roughly equivalent to that of the Portuguese in the early 1960s.
Oh, wow.
Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
The way the rate at which the world is changing is improving is just phenomenal. It's crazy. And then you turn on the news and you see things like the world is imploding around us because the big hogs in Washington didn't have the particular policy outcome that they hoped for.
Right.
So they have to send it out to all their little lackeys in the media to go scream to everyone that the world is coming to an end because Orange Man bad.
Yeah.
Everything is so good.
Yeah,
There's so many good things happening in the world right now.
Well, people are looking at the stock market. Oh, worst stock market in history. Worst December in history. All right. It's off a few percentage points. Yeah, it's bad. We're going to go into another recession. Shocker. It's going to happen. It wasn't going to go up forever. You should have been waiting for the cycle, the downward cycle. You should not be surprised by it. You should already be prepared for it.
It makes me angry that people to act like it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Because people look up to them and respect them and trust them. Yeah. And they're totally abusing that position of authority.
And when the next major collapse happens, these guys will come out, mark my words, they will come out and they will say, no one could have seen this coming. That will be the line coming out of the Federal Reserve. Well, there's just no way we could have possibly predicted that this would happen. And no, we're predicting it right. We know it's going to happen. It's clear as day that we're going to see a financial implosion sometime in the future. Now, I'm not one of these guys who's going to lay a number on you like, oh, it's going to happen next year. That's what everybody says. And then next year when it doesn't happen, they come out with all the reasons why. And then they claim it, next year, within 2 years. And then nothing happens. So I don't know how long they can keep the charade going. I just know the economics don't work. And that there's no way that this thing's going to survive long term. We're going to have another serious recession. Prepare yourself. If preparing yourself means save money, then save money. But do not wake up every day looking at the news and just worried that the sky is falling. Start taking some positive action to protect yourself. One of the things I've always believed and what I've tried to do on the show is explain what's really happening so at least you're clear. Because I think a lot of fear comes from the unknown. It's from not understanding. And just when we talk about a government shutdown, for example, a lot of people look at that and like, oh my gosh, the entire government is shutting down. What are we going to do? And then all it takes is reading a couple of articles all the way through and you realize, oh no, it's just 25% of the discretionary budget. It's nothing. All of this is just, you're not even going to notice a difference. This is all just a joke and a way to get you riled up. Well, now all of a sudden the pressure comes down. We look at the stock market and we see a retracement happening, market correcting, and yeah, we might see a 50% correction. Everything that you have saved right now, 50% of it may evaporate. Okay? If you know that that's a possibility, take appropriate action. If you feel like it's happening, then start exiting into cash. Start preparing yourself for when you do see that 20%, 30%, 40% decline so you can start buying in when that happens. If you think I'm wrong and the thing's going to go up forever, then hold what you got. What I'm saying is at least you have a clear understanding and you don't have to sit around in fear because you don't understand, because you don't know. And that's been the biggest struggle, I think, in society is helping people understand when most of them don't care enough about what's going on around them to really invest the time. They just prefer to react emotionally to everything that happens. It's destructive, very destructive.
Take whatever industry you're in, whatever industry you specialize in, and predict what will happen if there is a recession, if there is some type of a collapse. Predict how it will affect your industry, and then teach yourself or position yourself, do whatever you need to do to put yourself there where you can pick up the slack, where you can benefit from the recession.
That's right. Because I mean, like I said, there are going to be people who benefit huge during the next recession. My first business was started in 2009 during just right after the recession started and the market collapse happened. I can remember building my website out, or I was trying to find a guy to build me a website for my first website in 2009 when everything was on fire. And the guy I was trying to hire was actually out of work. And that first year that we were in business, we did over 700,000. I'd have to pull it up to figure out what it was. Don't quote me on it, but it was somewhere around grossed, somewhere around $780,000. This was in the height of the recession. I made more money that year than I'd ever made in my life. Put more money in my pocket than I'd ever put in my pocket in my life in the height of the recession. And then we stayed in that recession for a couple of more years, and every year we made more money than the last year. Every year. I refused to participate in what was happening. And you don't have to participate either. You can be the exception. You can be the 1%. You can be that group of people that looks at what the world is doing and you choose to do the opposite. It's the most valuable thing that I can offer you in terms of life advice is look at what 90% of the people are doing and do the opposite. 90% of them get a good job, 401k, save their money. Actually, they don't really save in a 401k, but they put the minimum away. And they spend every penny that they make, live a mediocre middle-class lifestyle, and then end up not being able to retire at 65. That's what most people will do with their lives. If you want that outcome, then go ahead. If they lease themselves an expensive car so that they look like they have more money than they really do. They buy a boat when they can't afford it because they want to be on the water and they justify it to themselves. And the reality is they're laden with debt. They're unhappy. They have no chance of ever getting out of it because they're not focused on the things that move the needle. If that's the life you want, all you got to do is follow your neighbors. Do what they do. If you want something different, you got to think about the world different. You've got to make different choices. When that guy buys a new car, you just give yours a tune-up. When that guy changes houses, you stay right where you're at. I was making more than $300,000 a year when I finally bought my first decent car. Up until then, I owned a gray Buick LeSabre I referred to as the Millennium Falcon. It was a great car.
That was my last car.
It was a great car, man. Buick LeSabre. Silver Buick LeSabre. I drove that thing to and from. I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I would drive downtown into the office, be at the office by 5 in that beautiful Buick LeSabre. I was listening to books on tape the entire time I would drive. And then finally, I bought a used Mercedes in 2000. I can't remember what year it was, 2013, 2014, something like that. I bought a used Mercedes, which was my favorite car by far, and I drove that until I wrecked it. So I drive nice cars now, but I don't buy them new off the lot. I don't see any reason to do that. I like comfortable cars, but I don't need something brand new that I drove off the lot last week and paid a fortune for. I just want the luxury. If I didn't drive so much, I'd probably have no car at all, or I'd have something a lot easier, a lot cheaper to drive around and do maintenance on. But those types of things in your life, you get those things when you've earned them. One of the things I want, it's a mile marker for my life, is I would love to have a Breitling watch. I love Breitling. I have since I was a young man, and they run used around $8,000. You knew they're going to run $25,000. And there have been points in my life when I could have bought one. I remember I did a campaign one time, a launch for a product that brought in $750,000 in 3 days. And I was just ecstatic. My business partner and I went out and we started looking at stuff to buy. We're like, we've got to celebrate. You know, we just made $750,000 in 3 days. And I remember even then I didn't buy the watch because I wanted to be so fine. I wanted it to be like buying an expensive dinner. I said, when spending $25,000 on a watch is as easy for me as dropping $100 on dinner, then I'll buy the watch. and I haven't reached that level yet. And one of my other things is a private plane, to fly in a private plane, to no longer have to fly commercial. And those are things in my life that I really want to have. And although I could have easily made it work, I could have spent the money on that stuff, I wait. And I wait because I want to earn it. I want it to be something that when I have that thing, it's not the thing itself, it's what the thing represents. It's not that I don't need it because I want to have, I don't do it because I want other people to see it. I do it because I want to know what it means. And so, I don't know. I think that in your life, we spend a lot of time trying to keep up with the Joneses, when what we ought to be doing is measuring our success by our own timeline and by our own efforts. And we ought to be looking at that rather than what other people are doing. What are you smiling about?
Well, I was saying, when you were talking about your Mercedes, I was thinking, oh man, where's Peter Pooler? Because he'd be getting on your case for not having a Jag. And literally the moment you finished talking about the Mercedes and segued into the watch, it says Peter Pooler joined.
Is that right?
First thing he says is, oh God, he's talking about his Mercedes. Someday he'll see the light and own a Jag.
Look, Peter.
And then he says, another flaw. This absolutely kills me. How are you not striving for a Rolex Presidential?
Peter. Everybody and their dog owns a Rolex. Okay, it's not cool. It's like driving a Porsche. It's just douchey. And the reason I don't own a Jag, honestly, Peter, is because Jags are for used car salesmen and homosexuals, and I've never been either one. I'm just being honest with you, man. Those are the two types of guys that I know. I actually knew a gay siding and window salesman who drove a Jaguar. And I can't do it. Now, I will admit to you, Peter, that after they stole Aston Martin's body design, when they ripped off their body design, I like the look of them a lot better than I used to. But I absolutely will not purchase one. I have no desire to own a rip-off Aston Martin. So, but if you like that sort of thing, if that's your car, I don't judge. You drive what you want to drive.
Value is subjective.
That's right. I mean, clearly somebody motivated you to buy a substandard automobile and pay a premium price for it. I'm not going to judge you for that. To each their own. So.
He says, I mean, you were a Marine, so the sexuality is naturally in question.
Oh, man. Yeah, dear Lord. Anyway.
You've got to be in the private Facebook group if you aren't.
You really have to be. Yeah, the private Facebook group, jasonstapletonprogram.com/members. So you can join. It's just $5 a month. And, it's worth being in there.
And then you two can trade barbs with Jason while he's live on the air.
That's right. Yeah. Then you can chat to me and give me hell. Oh, all right. So let's talk about one more thing before we go. I just found this interesting. Cryptocurrency's taken a little bit of a bounce here recently. Now everybody's talking about it being, now we're in a bull market again. No, we're not. What we're doing is going back up to that $4,000, $6,000 range, and that's the market needs to retest that level before we take another leg lower. It's not guaranteed to have to retest, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we run back up to around 6,000 before we find resistance, because there was a heavy resistance shelf at 6,000. And I can't remember if I didn't look at the chart before I came in. I can't remember if we had a solid retest of that $6,000 level. I don't think we did. We hit another small support shelf at around 4,000, and then we dropped underneath that. And I saw yesterday we'd rallied back up into around the $4,000 level and found a little bit of resistance there. Chances are we could break through that and go back to $6,000, but we're still in very much in bear market territory. So, but what I found interesting was it looks like Facebook is going to be starting its own cryptocurrency for WhatsApp, because they, of course, own WhatsApp, and they're going to start it in India for Indian remittance market. And it's a way for them to transact through WhatsApp on a private digital coin. Now, there's still a lot up in the air on that. They don't know what they're going to tie it to. They're not sure how it's going to be built. It's not going to be ready for market anytime soon. But Facebook is a company that recently went in January and removed any advertisements at all for cryptocurrency or cryptocurrency products, trading products. If you were trying to sell a trading strategy for trading cryptos, you got banned from Facebook, which made it really hard for those guys to make money because they all do a lot of advertising on Facebook. And now here they are coming out with their own coin. So apparently everybody sees the value in having coins available. I think this is a brilliant idea. Somebody needs to build a product where you can go on the platform and whatever currency you have, whatever digital currency, it has a value of some kind. There's a spot market for it, and you just simply have a spot market transaction, and they will transfer into whatever form of currency you want. They will settle in whatever form of currency you want, and you can literally have a Venmo bank account that settles in whatever Facebook coin, but you can transact in dollars if you want to. It'll just do an instant conversion and out. I don't have any idea how difficult that technology is, but the guy who figures that out changes the world, because that is going to allow 1 million of these cryptocurrency coins to be in circulation, and you can still transact them with anybody else who's got any other form of currency.
This is very interesting. The guy that is the head of Facebook's messaging app Messenger was... Let's see, in May, he announced the formation of a blockchain exploratory team at Facebook. At the time, he was also a board member at San Francisco-based crypto exchange and wallet service Coinbase. So he was a board member of Coinbase while he was also the head of Messenger. So they've been planning this for quite a while. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised the reason they got rid of the people on Facebook who were offering coins is that they didn't want the competition, potentially. Either that or, I mean, a lot of them are scammy. Cryptocurrency is a lot like the Forex market was in 2005, 2006, like completely unregulated, just a bunch of scammers who are going through offering trading systems and stuff that promised to make you millions of dollars, but that really didn't. They were just junk. I remember I actually recorded a video of a guy claiming that he had a system that took a $10,000 account into $1 million in 90 days. And he was selling it for $39, and I'm just like, dude, you've got to be kidding me! Like, nobody would do this.
Sell it for $39,000, maybe.
No, you sell it for $10 million to a hedge fund, or $100 million, or you let the hedge fund use it for a portion of the profits. Is what you do. If you've got something that's that good,
I was
that
assuming
it prints
it was
money,
a scam.
No, well, it is a scam. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
so if you're going to do it, then sell it for something that people actually think that there's some value there.
The goal is to get people get the millionaires while you sleep people. Those people don't have any money. So if you want to go after the people who are chasing a dream, then you go after the guy from $39 to $97. If you want a guy who, I have my friend Mark Sedlock, who just ran a test. He's got a fantastic trading strategy, just fantastic. And he wanted to do a small release, so he released it to a few guys and had them beat it up and try and find anything that was wrong with it, signals that don't fire, anything like that. And everybody loves it. I don't even know if I can probably say this. I don't think Mark listens to the show, but he sent out an email to a small list of about 100 people who had been following him for a little while, and just said, "Hey, this is my system. It's been working, and I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it to you guys in my list because we're still working on it. But ticket price is $5,000." And he got, I don't know what he got, 5 or 10 people off the 100-person list to buy it. And he told me today when I was talking to him on the phone, I said, "Congratulations, man, that's terrific." But that's the type of stuff where, hey, he's got a great product that will produce far in excess of what he's charging for it, and all you got to do is follow the system. And so he'll eventually roll it out, and he'll probably raise the price to $10,000 or $20,000 or something like that, and there will be a lot of people who will pay for it. But the guys who will buy for $20,000 are guys who have money. They're guys who know what they're doing, and they're guys who are looking for good trading strategies because they're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into the markets. The guy who's selling $39, who's buying $39 crap, he's got a $300 account and he lives in Nigeria, or he's a guy in Florida who is on disability and he's just looking. It's like gambling for those people.
And he knows enough to know that there's some value there, but he doesn't know enough to actually be an expert in the market, in the industry. Because that's my sense with blockchain is that I see the potential with it. I see where Bitcoin, all these other cryptos, I see the potential for them. But I don't understand the technology well enough to be remotely interested in putting myself at risk with it at all. So I'm going to wait until people who actually do understand it can invest their own time and money in really refining their own understanding, their own application of the technology, and then they'll come up with a way to dumb it down for someone like me. That's what happened with the internet. I have no idea how the internet works. I just know that I can use it and I can generate a lot of value from it.
And that's exactly right, is that eventually someone will come along and they will create value that is so easy to understand that you can recognize it. And you can say, it's like when I talk about being able to exchange any coin you want to at the click of a button. Well, that's brilliant. Like, I can understand that. If you had that available to you, absolutely I would use that technology. Absolutely I would pour money into that. I would move my big chunks of my bank account into your, whatever your holding company is, so that I could transact that way. That sounds brilliant to me. I don't need to understand the underlying technology at work in order for me to utilize it and get value from it for my life. And that's the problem that Bitcoin has, or that crypto has right now, is that it's not functional in a way that people can really understand. And until they figure out how to use the technology and put it into action where your average Americans, like, what are we talking about on Wednesday? We were talking about libertarianism and how they really haven't their message isn't one that makes you want to vote, because nobody really understands what they're getting with you. And same thing with blockchain. It's like nobody really understands what they're getting. There's so many different applications that it can be used for. They got to figure out, okay, this is what it is, and then you can invest in that. But anyway, well, that's going to do it, guys. Last show of the year. And I'm probably going to restart this camera so that we can get a better view, but we're doing something after the show. I don't know what. Amy's going to come in. But for the rest of you who are not part of the private Facebook group, shame on you. We will see you back here on the 4th or 5th. On the 4th, I think, is when we're coming back. And so until then, guys, be safe, be good. And if you would like to join over the holidays, become part of the private Facebook group, it's jasonstapletonprogram.com/members. Until then, we'll see you soon.